Hi, it's John Romita Jr. at San Diego Comic-Con. Fantastic Comics in Berkeley is the best shop in the world, hands down.
Tie a yellow ribbon round the old oak tree. It's been 3 long years. Do ya still want me? If I don't see a ribbon round the old oak tree, I'll stay on the bus, forget about us, put the blame on me.
Did you know that every 7 minutes a black person is born in this country without soul? Hello, I'm B.B. King. Won't you help Don Simmons and the thousands of others that suffer from this tragic disorder? Its cruel symptoms can strike anyone. Let's take a look.
I think the Republican Party has done one heck of a job. Don't you, June?
I'll say, Ward, we Republicans have turned this country around.
Safety and good mileage are the 2 things I looked for in a new car. That's why I bought a Volvo station wagon.
Hi, I'm president of the David Hartman fan club here in Glendale. I've even met David Hartman once. What a neat guy.
Chim chimney, chim chimney, chim chim cherry. A sweep is as lucky can be. Chim chimney, chim chimney, chim chim cheroo. Good luck will rub off when I shake hands with you.
This is B.B. King saying, won't you please give, so that Don Simmons here and so many others can become useful members of society.
Or below me a kiss, and that's lucky too.
Right to blacks without soul. Post Office Box 1305A, Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you.
Alan Moore, you wrote my favorite issues of Radioactive Man.
Oh, really? So you like that I made your favourite superhero a heroin-addicted jazz critic who's not radioactive?
I don't read the words. I just like when he punches people. How do you make his costume stick so close to his muscles?
This is where he, every day wearing a necklace like this, and he's in this urn.
Is his ashes?
Yeah, his ashes right here and here. Yep. So both of my grandpas are here.
What's that other thing on the necklace?
It's a Punisher emblem.
What's that about?
I like the Punisher just because he's, he takes his, the law into his own hands to, punish the people that wronged him.
I was not very steeped in the comics.
I didn't read any comics or do any research.
I wasn't familiar with comics. I wasn't familiar with the movies.
We didn't lean into a whole lot of the history of the comic books.
Yeah, candidly, we were not enormous comic fans.
I wasn't super into superhero comics when I was a kid. I read a lot of indie press stuff.
First thing I was told is don't read the comics.
Really?
As a creator, they put you in a bubble. They don't let you talk about any of the other projects, right?
They're up for anything.
We ultimately decided to redefine it for the series and thought that it worked better for the story that we're trying to tell.
Did you ever read you've never read the comic?
When the DVD comes out, I'm going to read a Thor comic book and just see where we went wrong.
Our point is simple, Joe Biden. Sometimes you gotta just let it go. Things run out of steam. Take it from us, the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Holy moly, look at my date! She's a super villain, possibly a Medusa. Dean, I am not kidding. She has rope for hair and a shiny costume. Oh, not fair, she's wearing goggles. Told you she would dig my Batman suit, but no.
Well, I've been working on a thing. It's sort of like Stummies.
Go on, I like what I hear so far.
It's exactly like Stummies.
And the twist is?
It's a much bigger pill.
I like a lot. Is it ready for production?
Yes, sir. It's ready to go.
Yeah, but have there been any side effects?
Yes, sir. A few side effects.
Well, that's okay. As long as there's no flipper babies, right, Don?
Well, there have been a few flipper babies.
Throw out your hands, stick out your tush, hands on your hips, give 'em a push. You'll be surprised you're doing the French mistake. Voila!
like steam escaping.
Dude, you don't have to be ashamed or anything.
But I'm not a fudge packer.
Then why are you packing fudge?
I'm not. I'm a very busy actor. I'm just here trying to get away for a weekend and do some fly fishing.
Dude, you are in a fudge factory packing fudge.
Oh, that does it. I will sue you.
For what?
You can't just call somebody a fudge packer and get away with it. Hey, is that fudge packer Tom Cruise?
What knockers?
Oh, thank you, Doctor.
Ma'am, Sheriff, he wants to see you.
Tell me, Senator, did you nurse Catherine yourself?
What?
Did you breastfeed her?
Now, wait a minute.
Yes, I did.
Toughened your nipples, didn't it?
Oh, son of a bitch.
Amputate a man's leg and he can still feel it tickling. Tell me, Mom, when your little girl is on the slab, where will it tickle you?
Take this thing back to Baltimore.
People don't like Globochem and its 2023 different products.
The perception is that this company is a monster.
A beast.
A cold, heartless, smelly behemoth.
Run by a greedy,
fat-headed fatty pants.
A fatso. Who do you think you are? This company cares. We were in the people business when you were in short pants. My great-grandfather started this company with one single rickety, leaky, handcrafted slave ship and a simple motto: people selling people to people. So don't tell me that I'm fat!
She just took credit for my salad. That's not right.
No, it isn't.
I mean, I'm the one that bought it.
Yes, you did.
Don't you think she should have said something?
She could have.
Oh, I know.
Imagine her taking credit for your big salad.
You know, you buy a big salad for somebody, it would be nice if they knew it.
Obvious.
I like cream pies as much as the next guy.
Oh, don't say it out loud.
Oh, okay. Let me make a cream pie for you, okay? Then you can try it. See what you think.
I do not want to taste your cream pie.
They taste great. I can guarantee it.
You've tasted yours?
Of course I have. Haven't you?
No.
I've tasted mine. I didn't like it.
I've tasted mine, yeah.
I liked mine.
All right, come out of our blast out.
For shame, Doc. Hunting rabbits with an elephant gun.
Elephant gun?
That's right, Doc. So why don't you go shoot yourself an elephant? You do, and I'll give you such a pinch!
We're going to start our volleys. We hope you like the show. So everything is ready. We're raring to go. We'll give you all the latest songs and dances full of pep. We're gonna start with high jump. Just watch this chorus steps.
Originally settled as Ocean View during the 1850s, the city's population boomed with displaced
But in my own way, I am king. Hail to the king, baby.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fantastic Comics Presents, our 229th episode. We get together with you every Tuesday. Well, most Tuesdays. And we talk comic books. We talk comic books. I'm a lifetime fan. And for those of you that are new here,
My name is Yul Carter, comic book retailer in Berkeley, California.
that's right. I'm a comic book retailer in Berkeley, California. There's 2 comic book stores in Berkeley, but we're all the way on one side, and then there's another on the other side. I would suggest that being on MLK is a little bit cooler than being up where the houses are. Well, I mean, there's houses where I live, or where we work, where the store is. Yeah, we're open Wednesday through Sunday, 12 to 5. Come on in. Let's talk comics. I got stuff to sell you. I'm going to show you things that are happening that are coming out next week. We're going to talk about some things that are coming out soon. And we're going to have a little bit of a conversation about bad behavior in comic books. As recently, it has come out that Neil Gaiman, at least it's been suggested that he's been a naughty fellow in the past. I would suggest that a lot of people might have already thought, duh. So we're gonna look into it just a little bit, and we're gonna have a conversation about how it's being presented to us, like so many other things in media, news media these days. Depending if we really consider it news or not. We're gonna get it in a moment with our very first thing to talk about, like we do. We talk about things at the comic book store. We talk about things that happen in the comic store. A comic book store owner, that's me. A fan, a lifelong fan, that's me. A guy that thinks about comic books sometimes and has things to say. That's what this show is. But first, we like to also talk about this one very specific topic. Only give it a little bit of time. In fact, we call it... All right, the Wrestling Minute, everybody. This weekend, WWE had their Money in the Bank pay-per-view, PLE, if you get it on Peacock, I guess. And the winner of the men's Money in the Bank was Drew McIntyre. Good congratulations, Drew. And the winner of the women's match was Tiffany Stratton. Congratulations, Tiffany Stratton. Drew actually came down during the men's match, Seth versus Damian Priest, and cashed in so that all 3 of them would be in the match at the same time. And CM Punk got involved, and he messed Drew up pretty bad. Damian Priest got the win. He retained his belt, so an unsuccessful Money in the Bank briefcase goes to Drew McIntyre. He's done it all. And going back to what I was just saying about reporting and talking about bad behavior and stuff like this, it's not really bad behavior this time, but there's been a lot of conversation, especially since AEW started up, because Dave Meltzer has been a guy that has really signal boosted, kind of helped shepherd its way into our hearts and let Tony Khan, Tony Khan's kind of like a follower of his, and this guy's got, it feels like he's really promoting more than he's actually reporting. And recently on Sunday's show for WWE, it was the NXT Heat Wave, I think it was called, or something like that. There was a match with Saul Ruka and Kehlani Jordan from Left to Right. Kehlani is a friend of hers, and she retained her belt, blah, blah. There was a moment in the match, though, where, well, actually, the entirety of the match was discussed between Dave Meltzer and his radio colleague, Brian Alvarez. And someone put this neat little clip together, And I took that clip and I took the Dave Meltzer audio, and it starts with Brian talking, but here we go.
This was a very, very heavily choreographed gymnastics display.
It was an athletic display. It was not a wrestling match. It was almost weird to me to watch it, because it's kind of like you never see a match like this in anywhere, really.
Unless you've actually seen it. And of course he has, because anybody that pays attention to match quality and all the wrestling in the world knows about Ricochet and Will Ospreay doing the same moves, or leading the way so that Saul Ruka and Kehlani Jordan could do the same thing. Odes to, little odes to previous matches or callbacks, whether you were involved in the match or not, is kind of popular these days. It's kind of like homage covers in comic books. We got to get to a point where, like, no more homage covers. I'm sick of them. You know what I mean? It's like a line right here on your shirt. How hypocritical, because he ranked the match that came before super high in his rankings, and it's a much loved match that everybody knows. And it just feels like he either has this is the only thing. It's like, if it was an AEW match, or if it was those competitors in Japan from years ago, these are things that he would find very entertaining and rank it. Like, who cares, right? It's like a movie, like you're reading a Leonard Moulton movie, critics book. So this guy, the same freaking match, same athleticism, giving these women credit for the effort that they put in, but then not calling it not a wrestling match, when we see ridiculous stuff in other companies all the time, including in WWE. And if you're not a fan of this, you can say that. But when you've been a fan of it or a fan of it, it looks like you're either just hating on women or you're just hating on WWE. Boo to you. That's your wrestling match. That's a long time. Well, a lot of conversation for that. Yeah, we're going to be talking about Neil Gaiman in just a few minutes, but we're going to talk about some comics that were A-okay, at least as far as my reading enjoyment, conversation in the store, or just pure sales, because, sometimes it's all about sales. But first, I'd like to say to each and every one of you out there right now,
Hello. 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 Oh. Go. Look out. Hello.
hello. Continuing. Of course, Gaiman is getting preferential treatment. Who's the bigger name, and which one has more of a stigma attached to it? At the end of the day, it's all business. Oh, look at you. Answering my questions for me. Philby Pill in the other room. Hello. Lane Kramer. Evening, guys. Evening to you. Elithid Lore. I saw Blazing Saddles way too young and didn't get any of the jokes about the dancers at the time. I saw Way Too Young, and I think I did get a lot of the jokes. It's funny how you can go back and watch movies and you were thoroughly entertained, and now that you're an adult, it's totally different. Maybe the jokes that you were actually laughing at are altogether different things. Kind of like Airplane and the Automatic Pilot. Walk. Sup with it. Sup with it. You know what? I think I have that. Let me see. Oh, yeah, I do.
Sup?
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 Hello.
What's up?
What's up? Dwayne Muth, good evening, Yule, and everyone in chat. Blazing Saddles never disappoints. I agree. Stevie J, do you have any manga that are conveniently sized and shaped for use as a suppository? I guess it's how much you can actually take. I think we could roll them up. You might just want to take a few pages at a time. Walk says, put your Dodgers hat back on. Oh, they got nailed today, let me tell you. I see Yule feels the need like he got to catch them all the variant covers. No, not me. Stevie J asks, do I like EVS or Eric July? Why, yes, I do. I'll let you guess which. Or both, or none. Maybe I'm lying. Yeah, I don't lie. Yeah, I like EVS. I don't necessarily appreciate Philly fans. I have a very good friend that's a Philly fan. What are you going to do? But politics, not so much. And I hate hearing about it, but whatever. We try and have a little bit of fun. Inside the store, it's a little bit different. You kind of know face to face who you're talking with and what you might want to have a conversation about that isn't the everyday conversation. Jill and I were talking about how you want the clicks and you want to get the people, not this necessarily, but just, and maybe if she cared to explain it deeper in chat, how we censor ourselves so that we don't offend. But the thing is, like, fuck it. Let's, you know what I mean? But it's tough, you know. I mean, I approach this show as a store owner, and I'm trying to talk with my clientele, each and every single one of them. So I'll give my opinion on things, and we are going to mostly talk about how Neil Gaiman's thing is being approached and how people have received it. Elithidor says, oh man, stuck on a call. We'll be here for you. Dave Meltzer is something. He sure is. Adam Frey says, go Philly, yo. EAGLE. Sorry, Yule. That's fine. Eagles. I mean, we know how you celebrate when you win Super Bowls. You know what I mean? Huh? So you got that hanging over you. But good on you. I mean, I saw San Francisco beat you and then lose in the Super Bowl. That was fun. That was like two little presents at the end of the football season. Okay, so yeah, let's get back into comic books from last week that I thought were worth a damn or sold very well. First up, what is this one? Rook Exodus. This came out last week. I think it was the week before. Nonetheless, this I'm kind of off because we took 2 weeks off, and then we had an interview, so I kind of took out New Comic Book Day and Best of last week. So this might be a little sketchy, but Rook Exodus has been selling out. I've had to do reorders on it. Everybody's been loving it. I heard today that ICV2 had their best 200, their top 200, and I guess nothing in Goat's Machine is in the top 50. And I think that's pretty much to be expected, even if you have the best quality talent. And I mean, for the most part, if you don't like Jeff Johns, I could understand, but Jason Fabok, who does this book, if you don't like him, you must love Brian Hitch. And if you don't love him, you must love Gary Frank. And we still have books by Francis Manipal to come out and others. So this is not good to hear that it's not doing well. But in my store it is. And people are really, really enjoying it and letting me know how much they like it. A book that was all but a sellout was Werewolf by Night. I don't know what to make of that. It's a Blood Hunt one-shot. And I guess people dig the character. I did not read this because, like I said, we had the near sellout, and I didn't think it really mattered. But there is a Werewolf by Night series coming up real soon, so maybe it does. Next up, selling very well, is Conan the Barbarian. This is the fourth part of the most recent storyline by Jim Zub and Roberto De La Torre, who is channeling the greatest aspects of John Buscema and maybe, putting a little bit of today into it. But man, it just reeks of yesterday, and it's so perfect, and it helps make people understand how good that other stuff was. And John Buscema did it month in, month out. did Savage Sword of Conan and did other fill-ins like Avengers and whatnot. He was quite the artist, and yeah, there you go. Neil Before Zod, number 7. This sells well for me. It's not doing well. It's ending with the next issue. It was supposed to be a 12-issue story. That's sad. I have a feeling that Yule 9 isn't going to make it out towards the end. The next issue. I mean, one more issue. I mean, we could pull it out, right? Nonetheless, this has been a really good series, and this issue is the most Keith Giffen Legion-esque issue. It even has a callback to the 52 series, and I was unaware of it because I had forgotten. And Customer Max, who's been on the show before and done some videos with me, he let me know that the character that was dealing with the eyeball, that I guess the Emerald Queen in this issue, she has this big old eyeball that does some real serious damage. And if you're a Legion fan, you know about this. And this was a great issue. Joe Casey is one of my favorite writers. I was talking last week how Joe Kelly and Joe Casey, when you think of like the Neil Gaimans and the Alan Moores and the Grant Morrisons and the Warren Ellises and the Garth Ennises, guys that write but don't draw comic books. If you look at the American people that I think are worth a damn, it would definitely be Joe Casey and Joe Kelly. And there would be some others, but I'm talking Americans, right? And I've loved their work pretty much since the very beginning. And they're both doing stuff, and Spider-Man's coming out soon, and I can't wait for that. Lastly, Absolute Power. I didn't even read it. I've heard it was really good. Mark Waid, Dan Mora. I have more issues coming in. I already have people on hold for it. So if you need a copy, you better make sure to let me know, or else I'll have to be ordering more. And I still haven't even read it. And we're going to have more books coming out that are going to be Absolute Power related coming up real soon. So that's the best of last week. Let me go back to comments. Elithidlor agrees that Conan was the book of the weeks. Very good. Also, Rook Exodus 3 made me unreasonably upset that there were 2 different types of goat words. I agree. The Conan cover does look cool. The Conan covers look cool. And there's more to come. Honestly, all of the Werewolf by Night stuff we've gotten recently has been strangely great. Hoping the upcoming series is like the number 1 we got about a year ago. Sean Hickey. Well, thank you very much. I just did the ordering recently for the Red Band editions of Werewolf by Night. There's a lot of Red Band stuff coming out, guys. And if you prefer that more than the original issues, you should definitely let me know. Nonetheless, I took a chance on one coming out. I like Neil Before Zod, but what about the Bot? Oh, yeah, the Bot and Batman Offworld. Well, they would have to have some sort of fight, wouldn't you think? Also, where the hell is Batman Offworld? 2 more issues. I can't believe it's Doug Mahnke. He's always been so steady. And why? DC, oh, man, they're so frustrating. All right, let's see here. You guys all like... Good. You guys are liking Absolute Power. Dope. More art is always a plus. All right. Excellent. Let me bring up some pictures. I'm going to just do that right now. I can't ever put all of them on at the same time. We're going to just run through this episode, I think, guys. Let me just do this. Do this. All right. Anything you're looking forward to? Let me know in the comments. You're looking forward to having conversations about Neil Gaiman? Because we're going to do that right now. All right. So I heard people talking about Neil Gaiman on social media. Usually it's X when it's me. And I guess he had 2 people accusing him of being not very cool with them and mostly sexually. I guess sexually abusive is what we would say. And there was a podcast that I listened to on Spotify, and oh Jesus, I can't remember the name of it right now. You can look it up. Just look up Neil Gaiman. And it was reported on by Boris Johnson's sister. Now, Boris Johnson's sister, I guess the co-reporting was a person that was a staunch defender of J.K. Rowling and really got into heated arguments or something with Neil Gaiman about trans stuff. And, a lot of people are really hot and bothered about all that. And Neil Gaiman is, a cool dude, right? He's very thinky about things like that. And it's been in Sandman and in almost anything he's ever written. And we know what kind of guy Neil Gaiman is just by his works, right? And then this podcast comes out. And I guess it's been, it's been a couple weeks, but people are only getting a load about it right now. And one was with a nanny and one was a consenting adult in an extra relationship. I guess he has open relationships when he was married with, I think it's Amanda Palmer is the woman's name. And when I was first listening to the podcast and they had conversations with the first woman, the nanny, she's explaining to us the circumstance with how she got in touch with Amanda Palmer. And it kind of sounded like she was like, oh, I was a really big fan. And then I just happened to bump into her over here, Anyway, Neil Gaiman comes into the picture later on. And I guess like there's an immediate bath type stuff going on. And it's like wild. I'm like, goodness gracious. And then the next woman in the podcast is I think it's someone from America, and he was in a relationship with her, and it just sounded like it was really like kind of stringing on, you live here, I live here, and everything's great, but then there was like all the sex stuff, and also the conversations between him and the women. And, we're not going to do this NDA stuff, are we? Or, I don't have anything to fear and blah, 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 blah. So there's a lot of that in this. And I think a lot of people out there are taking a look at the people that are doing the reporting or where the reporting is coming from. And they're giving Neil Gaiman a little bit of a pass. And it also feels like, he's been such an upstanding kind of guy that he is given a pass. And that differs a whole lot than what we saw when it was Ed Piskor. And I think maybe possibly just a little bit, people are not taking out the torches as quickly as they were then because of what happened with Ed Piskor. Neil Gaiman admits in these these conversations with people, and also, people know about him being a little, people that work in comics, you know what I mean? People that read comics, you know what I mean? So the pitchforks and the torches aren't coming out for Neil Gaiman in quite the way. I was looking on ICV2 that talks about things a little bit after the fact. This is definitely after the fact. Don't see anything. I only stayed on Bleeding Cool for a second, but I didn't really look it up too much because I hate getting on Bleeding Cool. There's a Reddit forum. I was reading through that. There were definitely people that were talking about Neil Gaiman hitting on women at conventions and stuff like that. This is kind of like the thing that, and then the conversation goes, the thread is closed for possibly victim shaming, but it seemed like all the conversation was pretty good, even though I didn't go deep into each and every one. The conversation would go its normal course. Neil Gaiman does this stuff. Oh yeah, how did you know? Well, I saw him doing this, or I know people that blah, blah, blah. I know that Fantinium has a Neil Gaiman story. Maybe he can come on the show someday and talk about that. Ultimately, the conversation gets down to celebrity. You know, these people with celebrity feel that, and it's not even necessarily that they feel, or maybe it's been given to them so much that they don't realize when they demand it. You know, what comes first? What comes second? You know, how did this happen? But the important thing is, like, almost always is like when it's the power thing, that's just not cool anymore. Unless you're president, then it's okay, because, you know, as long as you can put your seal of your presidential seal on it, it's okay. It's an official act. You know what I mean? Ay. So what do you guys think? Neil Gaiman, is he getting a pass, or is he, from, you know, our media, again, so to speak, is he getting the Dave Meltzer treatment when it comes to AEW? You know, is Rich Johnston, is he going too hardcore into it? I'm not even sure. Like I said, I don't really do Bleeding Cool. Let's see. I'm going to go to you guys right now. Isn't he over like 60? I got a pretty old picture of him. So these were events that happened some years ago, like a lot of years ago. So I joke in the store and on a few shows where I don't think people really understood what I was talking about, where we're kind of like making fun of Neil Gaiman or other people. And I say, look, if you've been in a picture in the back of a Cerebus letters page, then you're probably a swinging type of person. You know, that was going on pretty hot and heavy in the 70s and 80s, along with a lot of other things. And I think in the comic book world, especially with the cool kids, it was probably going on a lot. You can take a look at people that work with Neil Gaiman and wonder. And I don't think that would be an illegitimate thing to think about. And there's some pretty awesome people in that group. You know, Neil Gaiman, right? You know, swinging types, right? I'm sure the ladies probably are digging him. And then you got, like, you know, Dave Sim, right? Maybe Dave Sim's wife, all right. But Dave Sim's got to go with someone else's wife. Oh no. 63, just checked. Okay, cool. You can still be over 60 and not look like shit. Continuum. Adam Frey. Time to see if anyone who went after Ed Piskor applies the same standard or comes up with a Neil Gaiman pass. Well, that'd be very interesting. I think maybe less Ed Piskor and more Warren Ellis, actually. Because I'm assuming what we're getting. So here's a guy that has proclivities, if you believe every word that other people have said. In this, you know, as far as this conversation is concerned. And it feels more like a Warren Ellis thing. Like he's got his groupies and he's hung out with his groupies. And sometimes it was like, yeah, let's get in the hot tub or whatever it might be. Do you think he wears that leather jacket in the hot tub also? You guys talking about his hair? Fantinium says, LOL, I thought you all forgot about that. I did, but one of the other customers brought it up when I was talking to them about this. Sean Hickey says, as a person, I could care less about the dude. He came up with the era of some of the greatest artists, writers the medium's ever had, genuine celebrities. This coming out doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me either, sir. But you know what really upsets me about Neil Gaiman? When he was in my store that I worked at, so that was Comic Relief, he came in and he did some signing of some book plates. And I was the back issue guy, and we would get these little tags, and I'd put them on the corner of the comic books, and I'd write these notes and make everything really cool, and it would look nice. Some comic books in the Bay Area still have those tags because they've never been changed from their bags. Change your bags. So I worked really hard, and I would go and I would buy special pens so that I would, anyway, Neil Gaiman comes, he doesn't have something to write with, and Ben gives him my pen. Now, I wasn't in the store at the time. I had been having lunch, getting high around the corner, just staying away from celebrities in the comic store. Neil Gaiman, he took my pen. Can you believe that? I mean, that was the pen I was writing with. And not only that, that was back when I still actually wrote stuff. I think I was attributing blame to my loved ones, to Jill, about why I don't write anymore and how I feel like, if they're here and they can experience it, I just feel like it's something I can't really put my soul into writing like I need to while people I know are alive, which is ultimately my own responsibility when it comes down to that. But seriously, maybe, just maybe, it was fucking Neil Gaiman stealing my goddamn pen that did that. Can you believe this? I mean, he wrote Eternals. That was like some hack shit that I could have come up with. You know what I mean? He did that with my pen, I bet. Oh, horrible. Continuous says, and no, I don't like massages. Came as a recommendation for a muscle knot I had, and it was useless. All right. Oh, you guys are talking. Okay, good. You're talking about that. I had not heard about this about Neil Gaiman. Exactly. That's my point, Lane. That's my point. Again, I'm not saying they should be dogpiling on him, and there are articles out there about Neil Gaiman. There's one in Film Threat, I think. Is that a thing still? I think that was the thing. Leather jacket and the hot tub, just like Fonzie. Hey, that's right. That's right. Oh my God, Neil Gaiman should do all the Fonzie, like the jumping the shark bit, riding the motorcycle. It's just would be great. I was a big fan of Neil Gaiman. I would go to Golden Apple back when he still signed comic books at comic book stores, everybody. Big, long ass line. This was on Melrose in Hollywood. Long ass line. My girlfriend went with me. We had friends with us. I drove on down in my little bug. A couple times saw him there. One time I took my statue and it had little chips in it. And I said, can you sign my statue? And he did. I said, can you fill in the chips on the statue? And he said, well, Kelly Jones is here. I knew Kelly Jones was there. Kelly Jones is going to be signing my statue. Why don't you have the artist do that? And so Kelly Jones filled in all the little divots that came in the prepackage, in the prepackaging of the Sandman statue. First statue, by the way. LOL, Neil taking that pen changed your course of your life. Exactly. For want of a pen. Dr. Ben. If you had kept that pen, you probably would have gotten to write Eternals. Have you considered legal action against Gaiman for lost wages? Well, since these laters are coming out way after the fact, I think I should at least get like $2.49 or something like that, This is like 20. When was that series? It had to have been like 2003. It's like over 20 years now. I agree, Dr. Ben. Get me in touch with someone. Lane Kramer. It's just, if this stuff is happening while it's weird, and I admit, not as creepy as Warren Ellis. If you're not going to let Ellis work in the industry, Gaiman should be given the same treatment. Well, I will say Gaiman is not really writing comic books anymore. Many comics are being produced. He has, I think, a deal with Dark Horse. They're doing Anansi Boys. I didn't mention that. That came out last week. So that's a thing. American Gods has had a series. They've done a lot of his short stories. He's doing a Kickstarter right now with Colleen Duran, who I won't say wasn't in the back of a Cerebus letters page with Dave Sim and Neil Gaiman and all those other fools. Where are all those other fools? I can't remember. I just, I don't know if Neil Gaiman is necessarily worse or Ellen is as creepy. I feel like there may have been like, I can get your stuff looked at, but it's not going to really happen type situation. There were plenty of people that were willing to serve Warren Ellis when he came to our signing in Berkeley, Comic Relief, who would do whatever he needed. You know, he needed some cigarettes, he needed some Red Bull. I got it for you. Don't you worry. What kind do you want? You know, that type of stuff. I don't doubt that there wasn't somebody else, maybe someone else's wife or someone else's husband, whatever, that wanted to get involved with whatever, you know, and Warren Ellis. Yeah, sure, you can fuck my wife. No problem, dude. I'm sure it's probably the same with Neil Gaiman, but I would not have back then. I just knew that he was kind of full of himself. That's how he seemed to me. But I still really liked his work, and he was everything in the 90s. It was like recently the first compendium of Lobo, really the only one you should ever need to get. $60 book like that, 60, 65. Really, really big. It's got all the Simon Bisley, got all the Keith Giffen stuff. It's got the first few issues of the regular series, all the mini series, Paramilitary Christmas, One Shot, all that stuff. That is one of the Omega Men, first issue of Lobo. It is one of the most all-time 90s comic book. Like it encapsulates an era in the 90s more than almost any other comic book. And if you had it, and if you had to choose another comic book that encapsulated that, it would probably be Sandman. Even more than Swamp Thing, even more than Garth Ennis on Preacher. Not necessarily something better than anything else, but it was just like that was the other end of the spectrum. What with the artists working with him, what with the type of stories being told. He didn't get to use the F word back then in early days of, Vertigo. But, that was a little bit later on. I mean, technically it was the DC universe in the beginning. Neil Gaiman and Lobo. You put those two on, and that's high 90s right there. Very, very, very high 90s. He's too busy doing changes to the Sandman series. Well, too busy. He's being allowed to. Gaiman's out of the industry as far as typical work, TV series and movies based on his work. So he wants to do something, he'll be able to talk to the right people that don't care about this. Well, in Hollywood, if he, I don't know. I think we'll see what happens. If anything more comes of this, or there's more people, if you get a Warren Ellis site dealing with Neil Gaiman, I think he's pretty beloved, and overall, anybody else that looked on their past experiences with him would probably be good. But there were a lot of manipulative things that he said or did with either of the two women that were named, or that came out and had this conversation with these people. But that's also like, how many conversations, how many minutes, how many hours of conversation do you have with another person that's being spliced out and taken out? If you take a person's worst moments of their best days, would it look good? What about their worst moments on their worst days? Would it look good? What about their best moments on their worst days? Would it look good? I mean, there's a lot of your everyday life. I mean, there is manipulation in any relationship to some degree. I have customers that do it to me. I have me that do it to the customers, you know. I mean, it's just like I know what you like. I don't think you should I don't you're having a hard time. You're spending a lot of money. Maybe I don't want to actually show you this other thing. I want you to be able to come back the next day, the next week, you know? So it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, but whew, Neil Gaiman. All right, let's see here. Bay Area Retro. What are the odds you can get Tom Martinez on the show for a Berkeley comic scene retrospective? Well, I gotta say, fuck the Berkeley. No, I'm just joking. It would be comic relief altogether. I have a few people that I think I would love to have a really, really great conversation with as far as comic relief is concerned. Todd is definitely one of them. He's kind of a Luddite. It would probably have to be something that was a little bit more taped and something that he could do from the store on the store's camera while I'm here, or something, you know, maybe something a little bit more round table-y. Maybe I can get one of my customers to help with this. I don't know. Moby, can you hear me? That would be cool, though. I'd like to talk about comic relief, and I think I'd be a good host for that because, you know, all of the people that I would have a conversation with would be people that worked in the store, mostly managers and me. But I also have the grunt's point of view. And I think a lot of the conversation that's come to me from other people could still be funneled into a show about that. I think it would be really good. I got some cool pictures I can share that nobody's seen from the old store. Continuum. Things become strange when people at fame swell up their heads. Yeah, I mean, assuming that's the case. I mean, if he's making a move on someone in the very first moment he's met them, I was thinking like in the show that I was listening to, oh, and then he came out in a robe, you know, it'd be something like that. But no, there needed to be disrobing. The nanny said that Neil's wife spoke about 14 other women that he'd been fooling with, but who knows how truthful that may be. Well, fooling suggests that it might not be kosher, but there was an openness to their relationship. And one of the persons on Reddit said their friend actually was getting with Amanda at a show or something. And she was kind of ragging on Neil Gaiman at the time. And I don't think they're even married right now. So you all, am I being cruel? Okay, so I'm going to hold that off for just a second. Go to Fantanium, and we're going to close this out. If I had money and power, I would do nothing, absolutely nothing. These people do active things to F up their own lives. Like you can just sit there and eat shit and sleep. Wow. 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 Barry a retro. I don't need to bring him into the man cave. He does my books still. I don't know if you know that. He doesn't cook my books. All right. We're going to talk about brand new comics coming up. Let me play this video.
Why, we sell a dozen a day in this price range.
Who buys them? Tax collectors?
Even if I had to pay, it would be worth it. Just for the occasion.
What, something big going on somewhere?
What's going on right here? It's a big night.
Well, it's just an old run-of-the-mill Wednesday. Well, the calendar's full of them.
And 7/10/24 is new comic book day. Got a bunch of oh, Jesus Christ. Really? No number one. This something about StreamYard these days is kind of wonky. I think I just need to get a couple pictures up. We'll see what's up. We'll start with I got to go through this one at a time. First up, we've got The Amazing Spider-Man number 53. Zeb Wells, Todd Knock on portions of the book, and mostly Ed McGuinness. It looks really good. It's a fun story. I'm enjoying this one a lot, actually. I know a lot of people are out there just hating on Spider-Man, but it's just kind of dumb fun. And like I said, I'm enjoying it. Everybody craps on Spidey, but it's like it's the top selling book for the most part. Is everybody stupid? Do I just like Spider-Man? So I gotta read a Spider-Man book. A Spider-Man book. I've chosen Amazing right now. There have been times when Amazing wasn't the book. But I don't want to read Spider-Boy and Sensational and Spider-Man a little bit, but not Miles or any of that other stuff. Just a Spider-Man book. It's all right. Action Comics number 1067. This is a 3-part story by Gail Simone. She got her working at DC before it got into Marvel. Eddie Barrows on art. Nice. Is that Danny Mickey inking a comic book? Holy cow, a comic book being inked? That's a new one. The deal with Action Comics, all year long, it's been a new team working on 3 issues. So the first 3 issues was Jason Aaron, and I can't remember the illustrator. That was the Bizarro story. Oh, it was John Timms. And the 3 issues that followed were the big storyline House of Brainiac that also went through Superman, written by Joshua Williamson, the Superman writer. And now for 3 issues, we've got Gail Simone. There's also going to be a backup story by Rainbow Rowell, a Lois and Clark story. That could be good. I mean, this sounds a little bit more like Rainbow Rowell's cup of tea. And nice cover. Dig it. All right, next up. Transformers, number 10. You know what that means. Next week, we're going to be doing a raffle for anybody that bought, I can't remember what issue we're on right now. I'm a little bit late. Nonetheless, the Transformers is going to be 1 in 50 by someone that has come in the store and purchased the book. Next up, we have, I got to turn this off. The Ultimates number 2. This is Dennis Camp and Juan Frigeri, I think the guy's name is. And I didn't really enjoy the first issue, but I know I skimmed a lot of it. It was kind of a getting the team together story. And for whatever reason, I just, it didn't click with me. I wanted to read it again, but it's been selling well. I'm hoping this one continues. I've been enjoying the Ultimate books, but I haven't been reading everything up to date. I'm a little behind, but not on Spidey and not on X-Men. Speaking of X-Men, X-Men number 1 comes out, and there's already people out there reviewing and talking about this book, X-Men from the Ashes, A New Beginning. And you know what? For the most part, it is a new beginning. We've got a new lineup. Cyclops is in it. Illyana's in it. We got Beast. In fact, Beast is having a conversation with the mayor of Anchorage, I guess, or the governor, or whatever. And he's kind of trying to allay that governor's fears. Meanwhile, the team is out doing something. And it was a fun little story with a villain, and there's a bunch of different covers. There's a J. Scott Campbell one. Nice. Psylocke. Oh, I miss that Psylocke. I mean, I guess Quanon's around, but still. And, wow, that John Christopher Taylor Illyana. I like her big-ass sword, man. And I like his negative covers, too. It's kind of a thing that other people are doing, but I don't know. I think he might have done it the best in this one right here. And, yeah, if you want a positive critique, you can come to me and say, hey, Yule, I hear you like X-Men number 1. And I'm like, yeah, Jed MacKay does some pretty darn good stuff. This is an inoffensive book. I know a lot of people want a lot of things right off the bat, but it's just a solid issue. Pick it up. All right, next up, we've got Daredevil number 11. Could we be on the way to seeing a John Romita Jr. one last time Daredevil run? He kind of mentioned it in social media, and I assume he's not going to be the illustrator on Spidey going forward, or he's not the others when it's the Joe Kelly run. So, yeah, Daredevil. Batman Gotham by Gaslight, The Kryptonian Age, number 2. I thought this was a 12-issue story. I think it's a 6-issue story, but I still think it might be a 12-issue story. Either way, the first issue by Andy Diggle and Leandro Fernandez was really good. Art was excellent. I'm a Diggle fan all the way. And yeah, this one was pretty cool. I haven't read this one. The first issue was pretty cool. And I would suggest, picking this one up. If you haven't got the first issue, I still have a few of those because, I was planning on this being a long issue, a long story. Next up, we have Absolute Power Task Force 7. I don't even know what that means, but it's another Absolute book. This one's 7 issues. Absolute Power is an 8-issue story, and this one is a 7-issue. Did I say a 4-issue story? And this one's a 7-issue story. So I don't know how this is gonna come out, but yeesh, seems like a lot for Absolute Power. Next up, a book I have already read, a one-shot for Blood Hunt called The Incredible Hulk, written by Incredible Hulk series writer Philip Kennedy Johnson, and one of the backup artists for Nick Klein was a guy named Danny Earls, who I think is Irish, so Irish pride all the way. And I like his stuff. It's a little... People really were hating on it. I just don't understand why. I thought it was very expressive and interesting and different, all the while using some of the tropes that you come to expect with today's Hulk. And this one-issue story is pretty darn good also. I liked it. It was self-contained, and it's what is Hulk doing when the sky turns dark and when he's trying to get his friend Charlie out west, and he has to stop in Arizona? I forget. Probably. Who wants to get stuck in Arizona? You know what I mean? Oh, I said that one. Next up, we have Death in the Family, Robin Lives, a 1 of 4 issue miniseries from the DC Vault. What if Jason Todd didn't die? We already got the panels in the reproduced issue of the issue where he died, but didn't. Did that make sense? See, the thing is Jason Todd was so hated by everybody that read Batman. People wanted him dead. And Batman sales were bad. But Batman sales were always bad back in those days. There was a Teen Titans and Legion of Superheroes world, and only those books would even come close to X-Men and Amazing Spider-Man. And this was back when the Avengers wasn't a top-selling book. You know what I mean? Batman was not a top-selling book. And he had this really horrible Robin that was just such a try-hard. And the Joker killed him because they had this phone vote. And you had to call in if you wanted to save the guy or kill the guy. And kill the guy won by like 5 votes. It cost you like 95 cents a minute. Can you imagine? All the people that spent that money to kill Robin? All the people that spent that money to save Robin? Well, now we're going to find out what would have happened in the next 4 issues, even though J.M. DeMatteis wasn't the writer back then, and Rick Leonardi wasn't the illustrator back then. But I do like Rick Leonardi a lot. And I'm kind of interested to see what they can shoehorn in here. After all, Jason Todd's alive. I'm sure he'd like to read it. Dawn Runner number 4, a book I haven't read, is Lick Up. I'm not really a big Ram V fan. He has interesting covers in Detective Comics, but I haven't read any of those. In fact, I think those are drawn by a guy named Evan Cagle, who is the illustrator on this book, and this book looks sick. Can still say sick. And I still haven't read it, but I've been selling out, so something to pay attention to. Savage Sword of Conan, number 3. Each issue is done by different creators. And I don't even care who does it. I'm down. I've been enjoying it. It's a magazine-shaped black and white book like the old days. It's got backup stories with Robert E. Howard characters. Really, really scintillating artwork. And just a fun time. And I got customers that are loving Conan right now. They're buying back issues of Savage Sword. They're buying back issues of regular Marvel Conan. By the way, to anybody that's interested, I found a vein of Conan starting with issue number 1. We're talking Barry Windsor Smith and Roy Thomas doing Elric and and Red Sonja and all sorts of stuff. So come on in and get that soon. Next up, we have Kill All Immortals, written. I don't even know why. I'm just letting you know this is a book that's coming out through Dark Horse. It's not Gabe Kaplan. I forget what the guy's name is. I think he signed in our store one time. Zach Kaplan. That's what it is. Yeah. This is, they said it's John Wick meets something else. And I'm like, man, I haven't seen John Wick or something else. So I don't know anything about this. But at least she doesn't have a gun. Star Wars Ahsoka. Number 1 coming out. I assume if you like Ahsoka, then you probably care about this. And look at that awesome DNA cover. Next up, we have the Weekly Annihilation 2099. Why, it's the summer. It must be time for a Weekly Annihilation 2099 book, either or, written by Steve Orlando like he has so many others. I wonder if they would have just done Steve Orlando's 2099, they would have like 20 issues by now. And it'd be like, my God, this is one of Marvel's longest running books. Instead, we get a mini-series that comes out weekly. And if you're down with the 2099 universe, or if you like Star-Lord and Quasar from that year, you're going to love this issue. Quasar. Giant-sized books are coming back from Marvel. It's half news story and half reprint. The reprint is a Ron Lim story. And I saw someone out there on X one day talking about how Marvel space was defined by Ron Lim artwork. And I say, then why'd they get these crappy Brian Hitch cover instead of something Ron Lim did? You see the name Bianchi on the bottom and you're like, oh my God, this is going to look sweet. It looked good, but it wasn't Simone. You know what I mean? So that was a big disappointment. The fact that I didn't know the writer was a big disappointment. The third disappointment will be if you don't pick this book up and it's still on my shelf. I know it will be gone. You love Silver Surfer and you got to have this. Oh, I need to get 17 and 18. Hold on a sec. Let me do a little bit of work here. Oh my gosh, the reprint. Jill, make sure you know that the reprint is coming out. The reprint is of Doom. It's just a one-shot. It was written by Sanford Green along with Jonathan Hickman, art by Sanford Green. And if you didn't get the very, very expensive issue for one page, an MF Doom lyric is written on the very first page, people went crazy for this book. Plus, there was alternate covers and all sorts of stuff. But Sanford Green gets this one, and awesome book. It's a pretty powerful story. You should check it out. Next up, we have Hunger and the Dust, Book 2, Number 1. This is a G. Willow Wilson book with Chris Wildgoose on art. And it's a fantasy book, and it's two cultures getting together to fend off this villainous scourge that they are having a tough time defeating. And yeah, it's a really good series. I like this one a lot. Primer, Clashing Colors. Primer was originally a young adult original graphic novel that some were saying was actually a good one that DC was putting out, since it wasn't like changing or defaming any characters. It was a new character. It had new powers, and it was just something that was a very fun, light, easy to digest new superhero book. And I guess what she does is she spray paints, and when she does a certain color, she gets a certain power. And they just recently put Primer out in issue form. And now, for the first time, Primer is getting an original new comic book called Clashing Colors, one of three, a little 3-issue miniseries. The perfect number for a miniseries is 3 or 4. And there you go. Geiger, number 4, Ghost Machine. Remember when I talked about bad sales? Well, all of the Jeff Johns stuff is doing pretty well. This is probably the lesser of the bunch, but Gary Frank is just a fantastic artist. And if you haven't read the original Geiger series, I don't have the trade right now, but I have ordered it again. Vengeance is for the Living, number 2 of 4. I had to reacquaint myself with the very first issue. Holy cow, is it amazing? This woman in the very beginning is found by cops and she's dying. She's brought to the hospital. She pulls through and she's like asking them, where's my husband? They're like, do you know what happened to your kids? And she's like, these people killed us. And then you're seeing her relive the whole situation and how she got back at them. But, she's almost dying. Well, anyway, she has some people that she wants to kill, and that's what this book is all about. And number 2 is finally out. It's like $8. It's totally worth it. I highly recommend this series. It's so good. If you like action films and revenge stories, at the very end, our heroine, it looks like her life's up. But then her sister comes in with this machine gun and she starts blowing people away. So cool. Green Lantern, number 13. Jeremy Adams is writing, and I don't know, who is that? Passaron. I forget what the guy's first name is. Green Lantern has been great, and this is an Absolute Power tie-in. I have not read this yet because I haven't read Absolute Power yet. I wonder if this is going to make a difference. Anyway, I got to find out what happens with Star Sapphire. And lastly, we've got Avengers number 16, the Blood Hunt tie-in with the B team of Avengers. Kind of cool. We got Kate Hawkeye, we got Quicksilver, Captain America leading Hercules and Hazmat, all against zombie, vampires, and Baron Blood. Maybe the zombies wasn't right. Vampires and Baron Blood, an old villain from Captain America's Nazi days. I don't mean when he was a Nazi fighting Nazis because he was pretending he wasn't. So confusing. And that's some of the new comics that are coming out tomorrow. Any interest you? Can you explain that Captain America thing to me? He was a Hydra agent because of the Cosmic Cube. But he was undercover, living a life so that he could become Captain America and help defeat the Nazis in World War II. But then got frozen in the water and then came back and did all that stuff that he did with the Avengers and all that stuff that he did with Mark Grunwald's Cap Run and Avengers Forever. And then we found out that he was a Hydra agent. And then a magical clone of Captain America beat up the real bad guy Captain. I guess I just explained it all. Hold on a second. How do you actively get in trouble? How do you? Follow Fantinuum on Instagram because, dude, those action comic covers are epic. That Ben Oliver 1 in 25 retailer incentive variant is sick. So I guess we do still say sick. All right, good. Also, I Harvey Weinsteined myself to that cover. Stop it. Jesus. I need a Magic and Psylocke cover. Okay. I'll write that down right now. I'm going to do that right here. See, I said that before on the show, and then I don't do it. Well, today, God, that's a lot of writing in here. What's this all about? John Moxley. My goodness. Locke wants a Psylocke And a magic cover, of course. Do you want the main cover? No, that's fine, right? The first issue, Lane says, I found okay, but I felt more like a Catwoman issue. I agree. Didn't it feel she looked like Zorro in Kryptonian Age? A bit. I agree. Yeah, I guess they're gonna make her a little like that. Yeah. Hey, last son, Iron Man called. He wants his armor back. I picked up Kryptonian Age, and it reminded me that I generally don't like that period. I don't disagree. But it's got elements of Superman in it, so I'm okay with it. Money well spent. Top Robin. Dr. Ben, all right. And lastly, Sean Hickey. And I'm sorry to those that like, I might drop the buck. I just dislike his style too much. Sean. There's no right or wrong when it comes to that. And, we all have our personal tastes. Kind of like when I like Danny Earls and people don't. But I'm usually looking for something that isn't super perfect. Also not necessarily exploitative too. But if it's done awesome, then I don't have as much a problem with it. Jill was saying to me about that match earlier that I showed you. It's different when it's the men doing it as opposed to the women. I'm like, yeah, because like one of the things, she's like, let the women have it more than let the men have it. And it's not that I necessarily agree with that, but most women in wrestling matches, when they like lean back on the ropes and they propel themselves forward, you need some weight. You need some force to go along with that. And more often than not, the guys are 70 pounds, starting 70 pounds more than any of the women, right? They're going to be able to put a lot more on that. So when they're doing it, it's almost like, why'd you even bother? You're just wasting time. Let them have some of these flippy moves a little bit more, and then we don't have to worry about them bouncing off the ropes. All right, let me play this video for you guys. Here it is. That's right. It's almost the end of the show, but I want to let everybody know that we have ways to get a hold of us. Mostly it's Fantastic Comics. Contact at fantasticcomics.net. But most importantly, you should be a part of our Substack. It's free, and you can find out things about the store, a little musings and humorous anecdotes, sometimes about the store and sometimes not. We've done a lot of AI stuff back in the day, but I think actually we don't do that as much now that it's become so prevalent. Kind of get bored of it, when everybody else is doing it, it's kind of not as funny. But these people that are scrolling on the bottom of the screen are patrons of ours. They don't get anything necessarily for being patrons of ours other than this thanks right now and the acknowledgement that they have given us stuff at one time, most recently this last month.
My last name is Costanza. That's Italian. So you and I are kind of like countrymen. Huh? Paisanos!
650 you change.
Ah, yes. And I always take care of my paisanos. So here's a little something.
Antonio!
Si!
Vieni qua! Questa miserabile patrona!
The patrons are awesome. We use it for expenses to supply the store with the means to keep going on. And I need to get some stuff up for you real soon. And also for anybody that joined the channel, it's like $3.99 a month. Thank you also very much to every one of you that do that. And I guess this is, like I said, it's going to be a quick show. This pretty much is. And thank you very much. I'm going to play this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Lucy and Ramona cruising through the jungles of L.A. Hoping to promote a dream somewhere along the way. They're rolling through the looking for Ed Piskor, passing up the treats from a kid named Cisco, trying to make connections with their blemish food complexions, and just as fate would have it, ended up with Sunset Sam. Sam was selling watches from a suitcase on a TV tray. And Lucy and Ramona kept trying to figure out if he was gay. The three of them were standing, staring at each other, when the light behind their eyes blew each other's cover. The ancient code was branded, and each of them was handed a ticket to their kingdom, 'cause they saw their brother Sunset Sam. Sunset Sam. Lucy was from Compton, and she met Ramona at the zoo. Ramona was from Brooklyn. She left when she was 22. Sam was a native of the Arizona desert, but he split when he was slated for some governmental make-work. Their differences subsided when the common bond was sighted. They were all from the same place that made the famous